What's up, guys? This is Don Locks MMA here to present the UFC Vegas 81 post weigh-in show, where I break down how each fighter looked on the scales, how they faced off against each other, and what this all means from a betting perspective. This video is presented by the MMA Minute, your one-stop shop for sports betting content. And if you haven't already, please make sure to leave us a like and a follow. This is the second show of the series that I'll be doing every single Friday. And without further ado, let's get into the first fight of the night, Emily Ducote versus Ashley Yoder. So I'm going to have the face-offs going in the background as I talk about how they matched up and how they weighed in. This is a solid weigh-in for both women. Really nothing to note here in terms of a betting perspective, but I would say that Ashley Yoder was much bigger in the face-off, which is concerning a little bit as she is a giant underdog in this spot. But Ducote is not much of a grappler. She's a boxer, and I don't think that the size will play much into the fight at all. In the next fight on the card, we have Chris Gutierrez going against Alatangheili. I'm going to pause right here to show the size difference of Gutierrez and Alatangheili. I think that both men looked a little bit sucked out on the scale. Gutierrez is a really big guy for the division whose volume does slow down in the second and third round, as you saw in the Munoz fight last time out. He's not a guy that you really want to bank on winning a decision. I'm not really looking to be involved on Gutierrez's side, just the high price tag at minus 270. But there is a size advantage here, and I think it leans Chris's way, as Alatangheili is not that big for the division, and Chris is definitely has a huge size advantage here. Next on the card, we have Russian Ronda going against Melissa Dixon. Both women had a really, really good weigh-in with tons of energy. Russian Ronda gave a big flex and scream on the scale, and Dixon was full of positive energy, throwing up a peace sign. I think that these two size up really evenly, and Russian Ronda is wearing shoes on the face-off, which is important to note as she does look a little bit bigger, but I don't think she's much bigger than Dixon at all. This is going to be a really even matchup and a coin flip kind of toss-up matchup. Russian Ronda looked really good last time out, winning via round one heel hook, and Dixon's pretty unproven, so I'm excited to see where this one goes. For our next fight of the night, we have Terrence McKinney going against Brandon Morotte. These two size up pretty well in terms of how thick they are and strong they are, but Terrence has a really big advantage in the height and reach, as he's shown in a lot of his fights, where he's able to tag people from the outside and also uses wrestling to get them down and submit them on the mat. In terms of their weigh-in, they both had a really solid cut. Morotte coming in on short notice, but it didn't look too bad on him at all. And McKinney had a normal cut as well. But as we all know, it doesn't really matter how he cuts on the scale because he does not have cardio in the second and third round anytime. But overall leading size advantage for T-Rex here. And for the next fight, we have Lisboa versus Oliveira. So for Lisboa versus Oliveira, I'm going to pause on this one because I think that there is a massive size advantage on the Lisboa side, being in the thickness of both women and the height. Lisboa just went out there and defeated Jessica Rose Clark in the third round, which is an impressive UFC debut. And Oliveira is very unproven. In terms of their cuts, both women looked great on the scales. They looked positive and didn't really seem to be bothered by the weight cut at all. But overall, Lisboa much, much bigger than Oliveira. She's taller, and I think she'll use her range here to stay on the outside or in the grappling, take over and reverse Oliveira's takedown attempts. For the next fight of the night, we have TJ Brown going against Darren Elkins. And this is one I would definitely want to spend a lot of time on because I am concerned about the weight cut for TJ Brown here. TJ Brown weighed in looking very, very sucked out on the scales. He also was one of the last people to weigh in on the day. And that's not a good sign as someone who's 33 years old and supposed to be going into his prime. Elkins had a great weigh-in per usual, but he's 39 years old. He doesn't really carry much muscle on his body at all. I'm not even sure if he cuts down to the division. But I am concerned about TJ's weight cut. And as you can see in the video after the face-off, he looks to have a little bit of a limp in his step. And that concerns me as I am heavy on the TJ Brown side and might be considering backing out due to how bad this cut looked. For the next fight of the night, we have Christian Rodriguez going against Cameron Saaiman. I'm going to pause here to talk about the weight miss by Christian Rodriguez, which is completely unfair. And I'm really shocked that Saaiman is still taking the fight with a 4-pound weight miss by Rodriguez. Saaiman looked unreal on the scales. Amazing cut. I think this division suits him really well. He has a long range body type, and he honestly looks much bigger than Rodriguez, despite Rodriguez missing by 4 pounds. But something I want to discuss is that this wasn't a weight cut where Rodriguez really struggled to make that weight, and it took a toll on his body. It looked like he kind of gave up early, and that is definitely an unfair advantage in fighting when someone does that. So I am worried about Saaiman's cardio here, in terms of that Christian Rodriguez can be able to push a pace, as he didn't have to cut weight at all for this fight. And that is definitely the read here. I originally was on the Saaiman side, but this weight miss and it being this big might deter me from that. For our next fight of the night, we have Andre Petroski versus Michel Pereira. Pereira looked really, really great on the scales, as he usually fights at welterweight, but he has said to the media that middleweight is his new home. I'm going to pause here to analyze how they match up. Petroski took this fight on 10 days notice. He honestly looks great on the scales as well. 185 is a good weight class for him, and he had a big smile on his face, and they both looked absolutely jacked. In terms of how these guys face off, I thought Petroski was going to have a size advantage here due to Michel usually fighting at welterweight, but it seems that Michel might be a little bit bigger than Petroski. Michel is wearing shoes and Petroski's in flip-flops, which is important to note. So I would say they match up pretty evenly, but Michel does look much more jacked than usual, and he's not sucked out at all. So I'm interested to see how that affects his cardio. As we know, in the third round, it does get a little testy. For our next fight of the night, we have Adrian Yanez versus Jonathan Martinez. Both these guys had fine cuts, but not great at all. They both looked a little bit sucked out on the scales, as they are big for the division. But as you can see in the face-off here, when I pause, it's all smiles at the face-off, and these two are almost virtually identical in size. I think Martinez's strategy to win this fight would be to stay on the outside, use his leg kicks, and use his reach to box Yanez up. But as we know, Yanez is a very good boxer himself. He likes to get on the inside and crack. This is going to be fireworks, a full standing fight for 15 minutes. I'm really looking forward to it, but to me, it's a complete coin flip, and there's no read on the face-off from a betting perspective. In the co-main event, we have Jennifer Maia versus Araujo. Both of these girls are professionals, and they had flawless cuts. They've been doing this for a long, long time, being 36 and 35 years old. Something that shocked me here, as I'm going to pause, as you can see, Araujo's in flip-flops. Jennifer Maia is in shoes, and Araujo looks much, much bigger than Jennifer Maia. And being the underdog here, this does get me interested in her side a little bit more than I was. Araujo is very physical in there and does have a lot of pop in her shots, but Jennifer Maia is a really well-rounded fighter with great jiu-jitsu and great boxing as well. But I was shocked to see that Araujo has the size advantage here, for sure, and they both had great cuts. So that's definitely the read here from a betting perspective. And for our final fight of the night in the main event, we have Sodiq Yusuff versus Edson Barboza. Both men had decent to not great cuts. They're both really, really big for the division, and they both walked a little gingerly to the scale. As you can see, Edson Barboza is extremely jacked to be fighting at featherweight, and he is in the later part of his career. Sodiq is entering his prime, and this is going to be a stand-up war. I think, if anything, Sodiq would be the one who forces the wrestling here. But overall, both these men have pretty good cardio, and at this point in their career, low output. So I think it's going to be a slow striking match on the feet, and they both weighed in pretty evenly. And that's going to wrap up the weigh-in analysis from a betting perspective. But if you want to know our picks for this card, me and Steve from the MMA Minute, please do click on the Patreon link in the bio, as we'll have the weigh-in analysis and the DFS analysis. Thanks for watching.